Hey friends, welcome back to Midweek Encouragement. Thanks for joining us today here at First Church of God. I have this friend, we've been friends for a long time, and he used to have a hobby of memorizing 20 words in the dictionary every week. He didn't just memorize 20 words in the dictionary. He started using them in his dialogue, in his speech, and places that he could use it. He is a very intelligent person. And this guy understands like 4 or 5 different languages. I know he understands English, Spanish, German, and I think Greek and Hebrew, and maybe something else. He is just a brilliant guy. But one of the differences between my friend and I is God called me to feed sheep. My friend, I think he feeds giraffes. He is just so intelligent. But here's the other thing. He has a gift of loving people. He's a great guy. I think of Mother Teresa when Mother Teresa said, "You can do what I cannot do, and I can do what you cannot do, but together we can do great things." I understand that several years ago, Betty Crocker came out with their first cake mix. And it was supposed to be super simple because the directions on the box on the front, it said, just add water. And that would seem super simple. Let's go buy cake mix. But no, it didn't work out that way. The box actually failed. So they did a whole lot of research to figure out why their product was not selling because they had made it so simple. And they discovered that was the problem. It was too simple. So they changed the recipe to say, just add 1 egg and water. And it began to sell. I think sometimes we want things more complicated than they have to be. If you want to go deep and have big words, that's fine. That's you. But I think God likes to keep things simple so that a lot of people can understand that they are loved by Him and that He has a plan for them, a plan to prosper them and do them good. Matthew was one of the disciples of Jesus, and Matthew recorded this in Matthew 18, verse 3. Jesus is with the disciples, and there's children around. They've been arguing and talking, and Jesus says, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." And I can imagine Jesus picking up a child and putting this child on his knee and saying, "This kid, he's closer to me than you're going to be because you're overcomplicating things. You need to come to me like a little child." Getting into heaven is not just saying a prayer and saying, "Jesus, come into my life." Going to church is good, but that's not what's going to get you into heaven. I think the simplicity of the gospel is trust. Jesus wasn't saying that we need to physically get small, but that we need to become like little children, trusting. When you were little, did you ever get into a tiff with your best friend and say, "I'm never going to be your friend again," only to be hanging out with them later that day or the next day? Children seem to be colorblind or not afraid of those whose family tree is a cactus, people that are different than them. They can make friends with porcupines. Kids know how to love better than a lot of adults do. They haven't figured out that they're not perfect, and they're okay with that. They don't worry about their fashion sense as much as adults do. That's why you might see them in rain boots while you have dress shoes on. They aren't worried about getting food on their shirt. They just want to be with people. What do we need to do to grow in our childlike faith? I don't think we need to become childish and throw a temper tantrum when we don't get our own way. I think one of the ways we do this, and it's what we do when we've lost something important. We go searching. And if you can't find your wallet, your keys, your sunglasses, you start looking everywhere. You look in places where you haven't looked. And you find a few things along the way that you didn't even know were missing. But you don't stop until you find the thing you were looking for. You go back to where you had them last. And we always find them in the last place we looked because once we find it, we stop looking. To grow in childlike faith, you need to get back to the places and the people you experienced God before. Revelation 2:5. Consider how far you have fallen, repent, and do the things you did at first. When Jesus said this about coming to him with childlike faith, he went on to say in verse 4, so anyone who becomes as humble as this little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. I've learned it's not an easy lesson to learn, and I'm still learning. It's better at working to be humble than to be humiliated. Growing in childlike faith requires that you hang out with some people that are not just like you, the overly chatty, the prickles of life, showing love to toxic Tammy or downer Dave. Don't become like them. Be like Jesus and let them see Jesus in you. It isn't about being right. It's about doing the right thing. When you're waiting on God to do what He's going to do, what do you do when you wait? When you wait for your food after you've turned in your order, you get thankful. But when you wait, what do waiters do? Waiters serve. And the best thing you can do is to get a childlike faith, serve. Serve one another with joy and gladness, as if you're serving Jesus. So what are 2 or 3 things that you used to do that made you feel close to God? Write them down. That's your destination. Now, map out how you plan to get there. And remember, you're not traveling alone. Jesus meets you where you are. Blessings.